Hi, everybody. Angelo Batio here. I wasn't sure I was going to be doing a live stream today. I was actually supposed to be flying to New York to work with Manowar, and I had something really crazy happen to my family, and today's the first day I can actually talk about it. As many of you know that are fans, hey, Denny, how are you? As you know, many of you know that are fans of mine know that I've, had a few deaths in the family, and you just get to be a certain age and things happen. And yeah, hey, Denny, how are you? But anyway, my brother-in-law, who I was super, super close to, passed away. And so my nephew, who's 22, he lost his mom, my sister, when he was 12. He lost all his grandparents a few years ago. He wasn't even out of high school, and now he lost his dad. And so I wasn't at liberty to say anything, but if you've watched my for example, Instagram pages and things, I've been posting a lot of photos from the past. Hey, Christina, how are you? And but I've been posting a lot of photos from my career that are great moments. But the reason I've been posting so many is because I've been looking for photos for the memorial service, and I run across these. I've got well over 50,000 photos. Hey, Jenny, how are you? So, I've got so many photos of my career, and a lot of them really are not from me. I didn't take them, they were fans, but, I found them. We've been in the digital age for a long, long time. So I've accumulated this incredible amount of photos along with photos that I've taken over the years. But anyway, I thought, and Joey from Manowar was very gracious about it. And I was supposed to be in New York working on all the tones for the tour that's coming up. Manowar's got a massive tour starting in El Salvador, then going to Brazil, then we take a break for Christmas, and then, South America. Then we hit the road, Iceland, Sweden, all over Europe, and a lot of shows booked. So I'm going to be on the road a lot, but he felt that, my time would be better served with the family. And I'm telling you, man, it's not easy. It is not easy losing people. I think about this. I have this really nice dining room table in my home I wish I could say I didn't have, but it's from my parents. It's an antique. It's from the 1960s, really beautiful. But when I was a kid, it was filled. We would have Christmas or, holidays. It would be filled. We'd have all these chairs around, and it would be filled with people. My relatives, they're gone. And it's me and my nephew. We're the only two close relatives we have. We have my three first cousins who, on my mom's side, who I'm super close to. They're like brothers to me, but we don't see each other all the time. They live pretty far away. But, so my brother-in-law, Chip, my nephew, Alex, and I were the three people, we were the ones who spent the most time together. But anyway, what I wanted to say too is that when, I love the Indiana Jones movie, The Crystal Skull, where the guy says to Indy, we're at the age now where things are taken away. And, I feel that sometimes, I don't feel my age. I don't think I look my age. I don't play my age. Age to me is just a number, and it's mind over this. And I also realized too, even when my mom was sick, it's next week on the 14th, it's when she got put in the hospital 7 years ago. I just remember these dates like I remember my songs. And the reason why I'm saying this is because it strengthens my resolve to even do better and to work harder, to play better, to do more. Because even when my mom was sick and in the hospital, I remember her telling me I had so many shows. It was in 2017 That year alone, I went to China twice. I was in Europe 4 or 5 times. I did clinics. I did solo concert tours all over the world. It was such a busy year. And my mom told me, she goes, don't take any time off. She goes, stay on the road. And even when my dad was sick over 20 years ago, I was told the same thing. And so anyway, this is my kind of just telling you publicly, it's not easy, but so what? Excuses are excuses. There's a book that I've read over and over called Think and Grow Rich. And there's a chapter that says 50 reasons why someone can't do anything, why you can't do it. And I'm a big believer in not having those 50 reasons. I don't want to hear 50 reasons why something can't be done. I want to hear one reason why it can be done. And I've been like this my whole life. Jim Gillette's like this from Nitro. We don't care about what can't be done. We do what can be done. You want to shatter glass? Ooh, look at that effect. I like this. I'm using my phone today because I wasn't sure if I was even going to do this. All happened at the last minute. But anyway, Joey DeMaio's like that from Manowar. Immortal, baby. Immortal. He doesn't want to. You either do it or you do not. And he does it. Same thing with Joe Fuco from the owner of Sawtooth and Kevin Osborne, the other owner, the 2 main owners. They find ways to do things. We don't sit around and say, man, we can't do this stuff. We do it. And now, more than ever, I look at my nephew. He's 22 years old. I was trying to figure out how to say this because I love my nephew dearly. And I've obviously known him every second of his life. He has had to deal with more death than I think the only way to equate the amount of people passing away in his life at such an early age is if you were in a war. I know that, in this time, I didn't have to go in the service. The United States we don't have a draft. I wasn't old enough to go into Vietnam and these other wars. And so I'm not discounting anything, and I'm not making this political in any way. All I'm saying is that to see the amount of things that my nephew has seen at such a young age is pretty tough. It's tough for me, and I'm a lot older than he is. And so, but you have to always be positive and always remember that the people that are, Keanu Reeves said it best. Somebody asked him, well, what do you think about when you die? And Keanu Reeves said, well, I think that the people who love you miss you. And I think that's very true. So anyway, it's time to rock. It was time to rock yesterday. It's time to rock tomorrow. We rock. And, I love being with Sawtooth Guitars. We have lots of new models coming out this year. Even we're going to be doing some really cool acoustics as well. Okay, let's see. So, Lester, you said always be nice to people. I agree with that, except for one. There's sometimes I found in life, see, I'm not like this. I was naive when I was a kid. And even as an adult, I always thought people thought like me and wanted you to win. I always appreciated other people's success. But I found in life there are people that want you to lose. They are envious and they're jealous. So yes, you always be nice to people unless they're not nice to you. Give them the benefit of the doubt. But I'm a nice person and I've helped millions of guitar players around the world. But sometimes you have to draw the line and say, this person's not cool. I don't even want them in my life. So, okay, let's see. I'm trying to impersonate you, but it's not working. Why? You got to live my life. Or you just have to practice more. That was a good question. It made me smile. Okay, what made you want to play guitar, Angelo Batio? Why? Hey, John Peter, that's a good question. When I was a kid, I played piano. 5 years old. I wrote my first song when I was 5. It was this really funny song. And I watched, it was called The Jungle Song, because I had watched like Disney movies and stuff. And I don't remember why I wrote it, but I wrote it. And why I titled that, it just reminded me of but it's actually pretty catchy. Anyway, so I played piano, and I watched my mom play. She could play the accordion and piano. And I remember I started on piano without any lessons. I watched her play and listened to this song. It's a very, very old song called My Wild Irish Rose. It's like, my wild Irish rose, the sweet or something that flower that grows. Da-na-na-na-na-na, da-na-na-na-na-na, da-na-na. So it had a secondary dominant and all this stuff. So I watched her, I listened to it, and I figured it out by ear and by watching her. And so I was talented as a little guy. And so what happened was the music that I started listening to on the radio, get your motor running, head on the highway. I started listening to, rock. And I realized I didn't hear piano and rock. And so what happened was when I was 10 years old, I started playing the guitar. And I remember, I've said this in clinics before and even here on the live stream. I'll never forget my first lesson. My birthday's in June 12th. In June of that year, when I turned 10 years old, I took my first guitar lesson. So I started playing guitar in June, the same month, a few weeks after, I don't know the exact date, but I do have the sheet of my first recital. The first time I ever played in front of people, I did this. And I remember I played with my guitar teacher, and I went. Then my favorite. So anyway, but what I did was I started guitar at 10, and the reason is the music I listened to was guitar music. It was rock. And I could, somebody said faster. Of course I play faster. That's the way I think. So anyway, now that I've said what I have to say, and, I love my brother-in-law dearly. We're having the memorial on this Sunday, and he's a great person. And what I love so much about him is we could talk about anything. And especially like in business, he was a good human, but he was a good business person. And he had to raise his son without a mom. My sister passed away when my nephew was 12 years old. This is my younger sister, Marcia. I mean, it's just the stuff that I think about, that was horrible. I was on the road and nobody really cares. They don't, I've learned something too in life, that people don't really care about your problems as much as you would like them to think. Using the sympathy card, oh, I feel so bad and I'm this, it's almost, it's not the best thing to use. And what I found is that, I just kept it to myself. Like, you don't know how it made me feel. When my sister was so sick, and she was a good person, you know what she told me? She said, why did this happen to me? I've never done anything bad to anybody in my life. And I was like, wow. I mean, it blew me away. And, I'm getting tears in my eyes thinking about it. And here's me on the road being rock star. And, I'm doing clinics, I'm doing concerts. And I keep thinking about my sister, that every day that I'm out there working is one day that she's getting sicker and sicker. And, here's my brother-in-law, and he has to raise a son. And see, I'm his uncle. I'm my nephew's uncle. I'm not his dad. So I always thought I cannot act like a father, and people talk too much. I mean, I love to talk, but I realized that the best thing that I can do is show my nephew my work ethic and show him what I do, because I have a gigantic body of work that I've done over the years, from movies to 14 solo albums. I was even thinking Manowar, we had the song of the year in Germany, it's one of the first two songs I recorded with them. And, and with the Angelo Batio band, I've released a lot of music. And so, I'm always doing something with Rob Ross, my best friend Rob. And, so I'm always doing something. But, I don't let, in fact, the things that, like say, for example, if somebody criticizes something I do, I take most of the criticism. I don't care. The only place I care is on my own sites. And there's a reason for that. I don't want people coming to my home with dirty shoes. I mean, that's my metaphor. But as far as outside, where have you ever seen me comment on anything outside my sites? You don't, because I don't. I don't care what anybody thinks. I just care what I think. And if I believe in something, I believe in Sawtooth Guitars. I believe in Manowar. I believe in myself. I believe in my nephew. And and I guess what I'm trying to say to everybody, it's kind of a philosophical live stream today. I've associated myself, partly on accident when I was younger, with great people, positive people. I've always been positive. I look at PMA, positive mental attitude, negative mental attitude. And I read about this, but I truly believe that it's a coin. You can't be partly positive or partly negative. You are either positive or negative. It's kind of like in Star Wars, in The Empire Strikes Back, where Luke tried to raise the ship, out of the bog with Yoda watching, and he couldn't raise it. And then Yoda, you hear... So you hear the theme, and Yoda brings the ship up, and he brings it out, and he moves it, and he sets it down. It's like, zzz, zzz, and he's like, and he gives the sigh. And Luke goes, "Master, I tried." And Yoda goes, "That is why you failed. Trying doesn't mean S-H-I-T. We don't care if you try. A lot of people try for the Olympics. A lot of people try to play No Boundaries. A lot of people try to be Steve Vai. Okay? Trying and accomplishing are two different things. You do not try. You do or do not, as Yoda would probably say. And so I just make sure that I do. And that's it. And so, I was thinking, you get to... when I was looking through all these pictures from my brother-in-law's memorial service, because I had to do this with my mom. And like I said, on one computer alone, I have over 50,000 photos. A lot of them are me. It's a Mac, so it's all, the month. Obviously, in a digital photo, you know exactly when it was taken. And it takes me back to that time. But, my life is so different today than it was when I was younger, because family meant everything. I don't have a life of regret. I just don't, because I've been there. I travel more than almost, musicians travel, business people travel. I've been to 61 countries. I've traveled for almost, by the time I hit my early 30s, I traveled for almost all of my adult life extensively around the planet. All 50 states in the United States, Mexico so many times. Can't remember 10-year visas to Brazil, India, China. So, but what I would made it a point is to be at family events. I've never missed my nephew's grade school graduation. I didn't miss his high school graduation. I didn't miss his college graduation. I didn't miss family reunions. Yes, some of them I did, but the majority of them I was there for. I make time to do what I think is right for me. But it also means to make time to practice. It also means to make time to work on the necessary things. See, like, for example, what is the most important thing MAB can do? What is the most important thing that I can do? Obviously, be a good person and all the other stuff. Be smart in business, okay? But what is the single most important thing in my career that gives me longevity? My playing. Okay, so what happens is a lot of people get so involved in the business. They forget what got them there. My dad had a great saying. He said, sometimes people are so busy they can't take care of business. What did Elvis have on his plane? TCOB, take care of business. And see, so one of the great lessons I've learned in life, one, surround yourself with great people. Two, family by genetics and blood is not necessarily family. I have family that I don't talk to. I don't really care to talk to. It's not that I don't like them. I just don't want them around me. My 3 first cousins from my mom's side were all super close. We don't see each other all the time, but we're really close. And I'm close with my nephew. But I also realized this. It's important for me to see them. We just had a family cousins reunion right before my brother-in-law passed away. See, it's easy for everybody to go, well, I'm busy, I don't want to do this, and then here's what happens. Would've, should've, could've. And so, I would have done this. I should have done this. Oh man, I wish I would have seen my mom more. I wish I would have seen my dad more. Oh, I didn't have a chance to say goodbye. I don't have those regrets because I was there. And I made it a point. When I was young, I didn't know any better. It just seemed, as they said, I love movies, okay? I'm a big movie fanatic. Okay, in the original Dune, when the Quetzalcoatl, when Paul Atreides puts on the Fremen suit, he puts it on correctly. And one of the guys, I can't remember the person's name, that asked him, he said, have you done this before? And Paul Atreides, who was eventually the head guy, he became actually in the Dune books, he's not a main character, but in the movie and the book Dune, he is. But I've read all the books too. But he said it seemed the proper way. And I love that because it's like he put on this suit that he never wore, but he put it on correctly. And what was his answer? It seemed the proper way. Well, it seemed the proper way to me, to align myself with positive people who did things. I have people that I know that went to university for 3 years and dropped out. Those aren't friends I hang out with. I have nothing against them. I'm not mad at them. I don't want to hang out with somebody who quit after 3 years. All you got to do is go 1 more year and you got a degree. And it's not like I think I'm better than anybody. I just have a small circle of people, but that's what I do with guitar. What did I do last night? I went to the gym and I practiced and I talked to my nephew. We're getting ready for this, memorial service for my brother-in-law. But I focus on what I have to do. And so like when I talk about Speed Kills or my instructional programs, why are they so popular still? Because I focused on what I had to do. See, my dad used to have, I hear his sayings, he's been gone for 22 years from September 20th. I have this uncanny memory for dates and I don't remember everything, but I have certain dates that are really important to me. I remember religiously. But anyway, my dad was gone 22 years, September 20th of this year. And I still hear his sayings in my head. Like, he would say, son, don't reinvent the wheel. See, because, and it's why speed kills and why my instructional programs make sense. Because I learned from the past. I didn't think I was so smart or so good that I know everything. That's what I always talk about. Always a student. I don't mean always a little kid. I mean, always keep your mind open to learn new things. Because once you stop learning, your timeline stops. So anyway, but I told everybody, oh yes, this is going to be Q&A. But, it's really the world according to Mikey. And when I talk to you guys about this, I live it. Okay, I live it. I didn't talk, when my mother was in the hospital, I asked her, she was really sick. And it's weird. This sounds funny, but I got my eyes fixed over 2 years ago. I didn't realize how bad I could see, but I was able to get new lenses done by laser, the state-of-the-art lenses. They were not available through my health insurance. I had to pay for them. Now, it wasn't an astronomical amount, but I thought, okay, how much are your eyes worth? And so all of a sudden, I see now, like I did in my 20s, and I've seen like this for years. Now, the good side is I see like a kid. The bad side is I looked in the mirror and went, what happened? Hey, you were this young guy once. I joke about it. I'm like, wow, do I really look like that? But it was funny because they only do one eye at a time. So I had one eye that was awesome. And I didn't even know that I saw white as partially yellow. Because how do you compare your own eyes to someone else's? Is that possible? No. And so, but they do one at a time because in case something screws up, they don't want to blind you, which makes sense to me. But anyway, I had this thing done because I wanted to, I just want to, I want to do as much as I can while I can and do the best I can. I figured, why wait for this stuff? Why should I wait? Because, my brother-in-law died suddenly. It was unexpected. We don't know if tomorrow's promised to us. Tomorrow isn't promised to us. The rest of the day is not promised to us. And so this is what I was saying. I was naive when I was younger. It seemed the proper way to me that to align myself with good people, align myself with smart people, align myself with people who thought in the direction I did, but were better at what they did than what I could do at their job. And as I've gotten older, I realize it's even more important. But it applies, see, Speed Kills is not just an instructional program. It applies to life because it focuses exactly on what you're supposed to learn, and there's no outside influence to try and say, well, I don't like Paul Gilbert. I love Paul Gilbert. I just posted a photo with me and him back in the day when we were goofing around at NAMM. He put his arm out and I pretended like I was playing his arm like a guitar neck. It's a really great picture on Instagram. And but it's like there's always prejudices, and I don't mean political, all the BS. I mean, I don't like every artist. There's certain songs I can't stand, but other people like them. There's certain people you just really like and certain people you don't like. You just get this vibe where like, I don't like this person. It happens. It's life. Not everyone can like you. But what I did with Speed Kills and the way I think is I cut to the chase like a laser beam. And I say, what exactly do I have to do to achieve the goal and the objective that I want to achieve? And so what do I need to do? Manowar has sold over 30 million albums, okay? They have a singer that's iconic, a bass player that's iconic, that's a genius, that is just, right, just you name it. Joey's incredible. So what do I have to do? I have to be the best band member I can. And like I had an opportunity, this sounds stupid, but I had an opportunity recently to ride these motorbikes. Not motorcycles, but like on private property and ride these dirt bikes. I turned it down. It's not that I didn't want to do it. I did want to do it, but I have a responsibility to the people who are going to arena shows that I'm part of a band that's headlining. And so you have to think of other people. I'm involved in a whole group. It's like with Sawtooth. Sawtooth is becoming a huge guitar company. We have people coming to us. That's what you always want. We don't want endorsees that just want free guitars. We want people that like our guitars and basses and drums and congas and percussion. And we're getting people like Bruce Dickinson. I just posted a picture. He was at Sawtooth all day. He doesn't need the money. He doesn't need the fame. He's still a freaking great singer. And he sings, I mean, really, he's a fantastic singer. He's a pilot. The guy's brilliant. He's a brilliant guy. He's super cool. He came to our show when I played my double guitar. You can see the MAB double guitar solo, the band, on my YouTube page. He came to see us play at the Viper Room. And he didn't have to do that. He's in one of the top metal bands in the history of metal. He doesn't have to prove anything to anybody, but yet he likes the people in Sawtooth. But more importantly, he realizes how good the equipment is and how good and how passionate we are in making it and how good we can make it. I just saw a signature guitar from a boutique company that was a distressed guitar. It had almost identical this, and you see this roasted maple neck. We call this the relic, and so it's not a relic instrument. Okay, we do the process of this is actually a template that people have to follow when they build a guitar. So even though these are production models, they are models that actually a human has to do this. You can't do this by a machine. And there's a template. But there's a small boutique company who virtually copied it. Different color, but it's like the roasted maple neck, the way we distress the body. That's what Sawtooth is doing. People are copying us. I'm going to say this. When everybody, I like EMG pickups, but I only like the 707s. I'm going to just say it. I never cared for the sound of EMG for one reason. They always sound like EMGs, and that means they're a really good pickup. But they could never sound like Angelo Batio. The only person ever that I heard an EMG sound like them is Zakk Wylde, because he just beats the heck out of guitars. So do I, but a different way. But Zakk Wylde makes an EMG sound like Zakk Wylde. He's the only one I've ever heard do that. EMGs always sound good, but they always sound like EMGs. So I was never, but what did we start using instead of EMGs years ago? Fishman Fluence. All of a sudden, everybody's using Fishman Fluence. We had a very personal relationship with the company. We don't really care what other companies do. We do the best that we can do. And I've always been like this. Michael Schenker's like this. I know him pretty well. He doesn't listen to a lot of other people when he's working because he can't focus on his own music when he's bombarded with other things. That doesn't mean you don't want to take inspiration from other people. But it's the same thing with Sawtooth when we developed the hybrid guitar. I was told when I was with Dean before the owner, Elliot, died, that's why I left Dean. The owner died. I didn't, I'm not a company hopper. And I had met Joe, the owner of Sawtooth, along with Kevin, years ago. I did a clinic at their store called GoDps, and I just liked Joe. We just hit it off. We were like kindred spirits. And I always liked him. And we started doing business together, and it happened naturally. It's not like something that just happened. Elliot passed away from Dean. There's nothing I can do. I have nothing against Dean Guitars, but I can't relate in any way, shape, or form to anybody in that company or the current owners or the owner that took over after Elliot. I left, Dave Mustaine left, Dimebag left, a lot of people left. And, I wasn't the only one. It's not the same, it's not the same company. So what are you going to do? I'm not slagging them. I'm just saying it's different. Well, when I got with Sawtooth, Joe and I came up with a hybrid guitar that I was told, the reason I mentioned Dean told me it couldn't be done. They said it can't be done. We did it. It's not a Steve Morse guitar. There's two versions of it. With single coil and humbuckers, we can get over 24 unique guitar sounds. When you hear my version, my solo in The Man in the Box, there's no Strat or Tele that can get that sound that I got. It's the hybrid sound that's a hybrid of humbucker and single coil pickups. So anyway, Joel in Chicago. But I know, so here's the world according to Mikey. Nobody said it was easy. When people ask me, well, how do you get better on guitar? You practice. I'm sorry, but that's the way to do it. But if you practice with a purpose, they say practice makes perfect. Well, first of all, perfection should never be the goal because paralysis through analysis. Nobody's ever perfect. I can play something that sounds perfect to everybody else, and I'll hear little stuff, and I'll go, ah. But I set the bar as high as I can set it, and I try to exceed the bar. You have to go over the bar. That's my rule. It's not perfection. Paralysis through analysis. But when they say practice makes perfect, perfect practice makes perfect. I've talked about how I practice. All my instructional programs show the different riffs that I play. I still do that. But you have to ask yourself, if you want to get better on guitar, practice. And practice two things: technique, separate it, and practice music. The technique and the music will merge, but you don't need to practice it. You don't need to practice it together. No Boundaries was just like, I'm not equating myself with Bach, but Johann Sebastian Bach, he did 2 and 3 part inventions. They were these beautiful pieces that taught you a piece of music and technique at the same time. That's what No Boundaries is about. I had no idea it would become such a famous instrumental song, but it did. And I think the best songs are like that. They're written quickly, which that was. I just wrote it. I recorded. I was in Nitro at the time. Jim and I were working on our second album, and I kept hearing these weird melodies in my head. So we had a 4-track cassette recorder, and I just recorded the rhythm track to No Boundaries and the lead, and I put it all together. I had Rob Ross, my buddy, best friend, drummer, do a demo of it when I came back to Chicago for Christmas, and that's the song. So I wrote it quick. We demoed it once. I recorded it on Speak Hills, recorded it on No Boundaries. So let's see. So anyway, how do you know what it's time to use a new guitar picker? I'm going to answer a couple questions now. Cynthia, it's a real good question. I'm going to tell you how you know. Unfortunately, it's not. It'll work in the studio when you're sitting in your home or your studio, like I'm in my studio now. Okay, and it's pretty big. I've got a room there. I've got a full bathroom. I've got like a storage area back there. I've got 3 walls. I can shoot video. I've got my recording studio part right here to my left. And so what I learned when you do session work, for example, if they used to call it the eagle strumming. Or let's get that kind of middle position. Now I'm using a heavy guitar pick. I'm using a jazz style guitar pick, really pointed. But for that eagle strumming, we used like a super thin Fender style. And by the way, Sawtooth owns the company ChromaCast. They have the largest assortment of picks that you can possibly imagine. I'm going to grab one here. It's got the Mikey logo on it. These are my signature picks, and they're very pointed. They're teardrop. shaped, as we call them, and they're jazz style picks, but they're made out of Delrin, which is Tortex. It's kind of like a Kleenex and a tissue, but they're made out of Delrin, which is, it gets a little brighter sound. But so to answer your question with picks, if I'm in the studio, I have this massive assortment of picks. In fact, hold on a second, I got to show you guys this. Okay, these are picks I've accumulated over the years. Okay, there's thumb picks. I don't believe in tortoiseshell picks. I like turtles, and tortoises. But anyway, but I have them. And so what you do is when you're in the studio recording, you go for what you can play the best and what sounds the best. So I have this massive assortment of picks when I record music, because if you're doing strumming, now I'm just goofing around because we used to call it the eagle strumming, use a thin pick. Now I'm using a heavy pick because I'm lightening up on it. I know the touch. And like when And so when I played Long Way From Home, I used my lead pick because every note was worked out. I've talked about this with No Boundaries too. Every single note was worked out. And then every note of that was worked out, every single note. And so I use different picks for different applications. Now, here's the difference. Live. Now, it takes a long time to explain this because that's the way I explain stuff. Live, it's different. And I'm going to give you an example in Nitro. When we were doing... Let's tilt it. It was 200 BPM. I'm going to put it on 200 BPM right now. Okay, so here's what happened. Hey, Jenny, how are you? Roxana, how are you? Omar, David. Now, here's what happened to me. Everything, that was 200 BPM. I'm not exaggerating when I say this. In Nitro World, that was slow. That was our opening song. When it got to be a... What? I love that. Machine Gun Eddie. But anyway, the point is this. I couldn't use my jazz style picks anymore. They were slipping out of my hand live. And so what I did was I found I had to use a normal style, like I'm going to say like a Fender bigger style, heavy pick, but it was pointed. I couldn't use the thin picks. And so what you do with picks is you ask yourself, again, it's the theory that I keep talking about all the time. What is the goal? The goal is to make it sound as good as it can and be able to play it as good as you can and to be able to play it as easy as you can. You don't want to stress yourself out. Experiment with picks. See, in the studio, I use a lot of different guitar picks. But when I play live, especially when I'm playing the ultra fast shred, in the studio, I can use the jazz style picks. The ChromaCast picks that I'm talking about, the Mikey signature picks, the teardrop shape, really pointed, smaller. But live, I can't feel it the same way because the adrenaline of an audience. And so I had to switch to a bigger pick because it felt more comfortable. And the same thing happened with Manowar. Here, we're playing at these massive arenas. I've done a lot of stuff in my life, but I never headlined an arena show. I've opened up and I've played with bands like Smashing Pumpkins, and I even headlined a show in India by myself with 30,000 people. But I never played show after show after show where the entire audience is there to see you. Manowar doesn't even have a lot of opening acts. We do sometimes, and the point is this, it was the same thing. I found the velocity of the rhythms and everything is to a click track. There are no pre-recorded anything. Okay, it's real guitar, real bass. Eric's really singing it, real drums. But we play to a click track, same that we did with Nitro. Why? Because it times the lighting and the pyro and everything. It's got to go off exactly, or I'm going to get blown up. And so there's no cheating. Cheating's for cheaters. We don't need to cheat. We can play it. And so, but the point is that I had the same thing happen to me. I couldn't use that smaller pick. I had to use a bigger guitar pick. And again, it's common sense, don't reinvent the wheel. And what I mean by that is learn from what other people have done and you save yourself a lot of grief and aggravation. If a pick's not working for you, change it. And I don't mean to be flippant and to discount what you're saying, Cynthia, but it's like, don't be afraid to crank things up all the way. Don't be afraid to change a guitar pick. And that's it. Let's see. So is there anything else? Yeah, exactly. And here Ted writes, yeah, and use the pick that gives you the sound you like. Exactly. That's exactly it. See, sometimes, again, people overthink things, the paralysis through analysis. It's not as hard as you think. The hardest part is not to figure out what you have to do. The hardest part is to do it. Anybody can talk. Anybody is, I can do this. All the critics are like, I can do this. Blah, 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 blah. Well, do it. Do it. No one's stopping you. Do it. And that's, like I said, I don't care what anybody says about me outside of my own little world. But in my world, I'm the sun in my universe, and it revolves around me. And so really, it's just a matter of respect. I grew up, where I called my friends' parents, Mr. and Mrs. We don't do that much anymore. I don't even think I like it anymore. But I treat people with respect. And like earlier in the show, when somebody mentioned that, treat people with respect. I always give someone the benefit of the doubt. I treat everybody like I would want to be treated, but sometimes people are just rude for whatever reason they have. Sometimes you have to fight fire with nuclear bombs. I don't like that. It's not in my nature to be mean, but sometimes you just have to tell people. My dad had a great saying too. He always had sayings. I hear him every day of my life. He said, son, you have to learn how to say no. And when you learn how to say no and you stick to it, it makes life a lot easier, because a lot of times, it's like, okay, I know I need to practice this song for the tour, but I don't feel like it. I want to watch a movie. No. Or somebody wants you to party when you're supposed to. I had that actually happen with a big band when I was in the band Holland. We were opening up for them, and they tried to get me to party the night before. And I said no. And even, it's funny, even Kerry King did this. I was doing and he didn't mean it. I like Kerry. But we were in Las Vegas, and I was doing a clinic in Las Vegas the next day in the afternoon. It was like a Friday night, and then I played during the day. And Kerry just had to do an appearance. He didn't actually play. I was doing a full one-man show, playing my single guitar double. And we were at Mandalay Bay at the Russian vodka bar, which I don't even know if it's around anymore. And I don't really drink that much. But anyway, he wanted to do some shots. And he's like, and I said, I don't want to do them. I got to play tomorrow. And he said something to me. He's like, come on, bitch. And I looked at him. I'm taller than that guy. I looked at him. I said, dude, I'm not going to do it. And that's it. You say whatever you want. I got pissed. And he was nice about it. And, he was a little lit. And I don't think he meant it in a bad way. But, the way I didn't want to do it. And I played great the next day, because, you just have to do the job. And that's the point. What is the job? The hardest thing is to do it. The easiest thing is to figure it out, what you have to do. It's the hardest thing is to actually do what you have to do. So anyway, that's about it for today. It's one of the reasons that I like Sawtooth so much. Just what I said, guitar playing, riffs, performing, all of it works together for me. It's like it's more, it all intertwines. The way I wrote Speed Kills and the methodology is the way I think about life in many ways, or business. I'm concise and I get to the point, and I'm not really concerned. I listen to other people's opinions. I will listen all the time. But if people just, if you're not in music and you don't play arenas or something, you want to give me advice, well, my first question would be, well, what gives you the experience to tell me? Now, that doesn't mean that people can't see things. Like, there's another thing that I think about too, Dr. Phil. Okay, if people don't know him, he was a doctor, and he would bring people on stage that had this massive problem. He knew it. The audience, every single person in the audience knew what the problem was for that person, except for that person. Okay? And I always think to myself, don't be the person on Dr. Phil, because it's kind of like, when you're just stuck on something, or you've got a good friend or family member and they ask for your advice, you see very clearly what's wrong with this person, what they're doing wrong. They can't see it. Try not to be the person they can't see, that can't see it. So that's the point. So anyway, I just want to say this, that, Sawtooth rules. I'm going to be on tour very soon. And, it was very difficult for me to start talking about this. I have a great nephew. He's a tough kid. But, we all have emotions. I'm not a sociopath, people have feelings, the majority of people on this earth. And I just think that you just do the best you can. But my philosophy on life is figure out what you have to do, then do what you have to do. Anyway, I'm Angelo Batio for Sawtooth Musical Instruments. See ya.